Thank you to SwitchBot for sponsoring today's video. I'm really excited to show you guys SwitchBot's newest product, the Pan Tilt Cam. This indoor camera has a resolution of 1080p and a camera angle of 360 degrees horizontally and 115 degrees vertically. With a built-in microphone and a speaker and a night vision setting, this camera is controllable through your phone via an app. And it also works with Alexa and Google. You can ask Alexa or Google to show me the camera, and you can live stream to your devices and even enable two-way talk. But what really sets it apart is that it features an intuitive privacy mode that enables your camera lens to be stored away and hidden. When you arrive at home, Pan and Tilt Cam can automatically hide to prevent it from filming you when it's not necessary. It is the only product in the market with the privacy mode in that price bracket. Since the camera can rotate 360 degrees, it has an automatic tracking feature that can help to record anything moving around, like if your pet is being really cute and playing in the living room, or if your baby is having an adorable moment. Of course, it can also track and record suspicious movements should someone unknown enter your living space. So if you need an indoor camera and you use my link in the description below, you will get an exclusive 15% discount on your purchase. So thanks again, SwitchBot, for supporting this channel. And now on to today's video. Hi, welcome to Jovie's home. Today, I want to tell you guys all about my incredible new job. So I know that I've been talking about it for a few months already on YouTube, that I was kind of looking for something and what was I gonna do? And today I'm gonna tell you all about it in this video. Now, this is gonna be long and I'm gonna address a few different topics. Not everything is necessarily interesting for you. So please make sure to open the description box and you will see the chapters. So basically I will put like a heading and a timestamp for everything I'm gonna talk about, so you can kind of skip through and listen to the things that are interesting for you, skip over the things that maybe you don't care about, and just in general be like, choose what parts of this video you want to watch. So if that sounds good to you, then why don't you come on in, kick off your shoes and stay a while. I'm really glad you're here. So without further ado, let me tell you about what my job is. I have accepted a full-time position working as a communication advisor and social media content creator for Erasmus University in Rotterdam. I am so excited. So in my job as communication advisor, part of what I'm going to be doing is basically sharing the stories of what is happening at the university, what kind of research or projects the professors are working on, the researchers are working on, kind of share their story with you guys, not just you guys, but like with the world at large. This is kind of a little bit about my job. It's still pretty new, so I can't talk too much about it, but this is kind of what I will be doing. So how did I search for an English-speaking job in the Netherlands? My main approach, or my main search engine, honestly, this time was LinkedIn. I was keeping an eye on lots and lots of different things. I think that one of the places where I struggled really was once I decided that I was going to go back to work, I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do or where I wanted to work. And so I applied to all kinds of things that I thought maybe would be interesting. So I applied to legal jobs, even though I knew that I don't really want to be working as a lawyer anymore. It was something that I was qualified for, and I thought, okay, let's give it a try. I think that when I was applying and interviewing and stuff, although I tried my best and I put my best foot forward, I think ultimately the reason that it didn't materialize in an actual job for me is because it was not the right one, which in that moment feels hard, and it feels really shitty to get a rejection, especially saying it was down to you and this other person, and we choose this other person. And that happened on more than one occasion where I was the second choice. And I was really sad about it a few times. Like, I cried. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know I cried. But ultimately, all of those experiences and helped me to have this like process of elimination of realizing I actually really don't want to do that. And it's good that I dodged a bullet. You know, I shared this experience of this horrible interview question that I had, which was this male HR manager asking me how I work with women. And I was like, I mean, the exact same way as I work with men. And he said to me, and I'm not kidding you guys, he said, in my experience, women just tend to blah, blah, blah over a cup of coffee, and they talk about anything that's not in their job description. So, yeah. And I was just like, what the fuck are you trying to say to me, dude? But I just responded to him and I was like, that sounds to me like it's a problem of you managing them if that's what's happening. Yeah, so I didn't get that job either, but I also was really proud of myself for saying that to him because, like, what the fuck? What kind of a question is that in an interview? Like, you are literally trashing women in front of a woman. Well, I'm not sure what you're trying to achieve there, dude. So it's been crazy. Kind of through a process of elimination, I was really able to narrow it down to, like, I don't want to work in the legal field. I don't want to do like too much math, analysis, analytics kind of stuff. I don't want to work in a misogynistic company. And I really, really, really want to work at the university. And then to narrow down, no, I want to do communications. I want to do social media. And so that helped me. But LinkedIn was where I searched, and LinkedIn is where I found my current job. It actually happens to be that my now boss had posted on her LinkedIn, like the description, the vacancy. It was just before Christmas that I saw it, and I applied. I sent in my stuff, and I even responded to her like LinkedIn post where I was just like, hey, future boss, I see this and this job looks amazing. I'm so excited to apply for it, and I really hope that I get to meet you in the interview. She has never told me whether or not that made any difference, but I did do that, and I've never done that before for another job where I like comment like, oh, by the way, I'm applying for your job. But in this case I did. It felt like a good thing to do, and I did it, and it was all right. So yeah, for the most part, LinkedIn is where I searched. Lots of recruiters also post jobs on LinkedIn. So there were definitely agencies like Robert Walters Legal, where I applied for some jobs, but I found them originally from LinkedIn. Blue Links Group, which is another employment agency that I've worked with in the past. Like, they helped me find other jobs in the Netherlands, but again, I found the jobs that they were advertising on LinkedIn. And in this case, for this job, I did not go through a recruiter. I did not have an agency help me get this. This was directly, I saw the job on LinkedIn, I applied through the university website, and everything was done through the university itself. So that is kind of how I approached and searched for this English-speaking job. Now, I want to talk about how I modified and prepared my cover letters and my CV for the jobs that I was applying for. It's really easy to be a little bit lazy, I think, and to have kind of one standard CV. Like the cover letter, we all kind of know you have to change that. That needs to change for every job. But I didn't really change my cover letter, I didn't really change my CV too much between jobs. And I think that that was a mistake that I had been making, because as soon as I also adjusted my CV to reflect a little bit of the job description or the vacancy announcement, I ended up getting that exact job. So I don't know if it was just this was the perfect job for me, that this was like exactly what I needed, and that's why it worked out, or if it was my strategy of also adjusting my, not just the cover letter, but also the CV to match kind of what they were saying. So just in very broad terms, I'm not going to be too specific, but if they say, we want somebody that can tell the difference between the color red and the color blue, in my CV, under like one of my jobs that I would do, I would say like, you know, it was my job to be able to tell the difference between colors, for example, red and blue, so that the thing that they were looking for in their vacancy announcement, that they could see that kind of reflected back in my CV. So that was something that I did. I had kind of different versions of my CVs that I made. So when I was applying for jobs in the kind of communications or social media, then I focused heavily on the things that I've achieved in my own social media or with communications, the things that I've done through all of my jobs. So not just with Jovie's Home, but like for my kind of communications related CV, I would talk about in my former job that was not only communications, but I would pick and choose the things that were related to communications and I would highlight those things. So, for example, when I was going and speaking at conferences, when I was helping management prepare slide decks, when I was working on newsletters or blog posts or things that I was doing that were specifically communications related, that was highlighted on my kind of communications CV. Then I had one which was more project management oriented. So for that exact same job that I just talked about, where I talked about going to conferences and blah, blah, on my project management version of that CV, that's when I talked about, okay, I managed this many events. I achieved this and this in the project. So it was not related anymore to the communications aspect, but it was really tailored much more heavily to the project management aspect. So if you're looking for a job, I don't know that this is Netherlands specific, but I think it's maybe just a good tip in general. Tailor your CV really closely to the kind of job that it is that you're looking for. So even if your job is really broad and diverse and you do communications and project management, kind of separate it into two different kinds of CVs to highlight your real experiences in each of those, because then it will make it easier to target the industry that you're looking for. In the cover letter, I also addressed a lot of the things that they were looking for. So again, I would say things like, in my previous job at this company, one of the ways that I could tell the difference between red and blue was through my work on this and this and this project. And now when I worked at the, Yugoslavia Tribunal, when I was doing, like, as an international criminal lawyer, for example, I didn't specifically work with the red and blue. However, I was differentiating between green and purple, and these are the skills that I gained through that job that would help me be able to see the difference between red and blue in this job. So every single thing that I had done previously, even though it was completely not in the same industry and it was not the same kind of topic, I was really trying to show how my experience in law would help me in communications, how my experience in project management would help me in communications. So everything was just tying it back to, even though I don't have, 20 years of experience in communications, I can still work as a communications advisor because of this skill and this skill and this thing that I developed in this and this other job. So that is how I approached it. And I also feel like that was one of the reasons that I was able to then get a callback for the first interview. And then the interviews is different, but certainly to get your foot through the door, I think these were really helpful. These were helpful, at least to me, and I saw some success. For the interview itself, in my case, there was 2 rounds of interviews, and I met with five different people over those 2 rounds of interviews. However, I was also asked to prepare an assessment, or like a kind of a project, before I ended up having the second interview, which was so much fun. I had so much fun doing that project. We'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that I struggle with, and I think this is kind of my American mentality, is I always felt like I had to sell myself. Like I was just selling myself to you. And what felt different in this interview was that it was kind of like we were getting to know each other. And they really wanted me to understand what it was like at the university and what the job would be like. And would I like that? Would I enjoy doing those things? And then I could tell them, oh yeah, I think that would be really great. Or I'm able to do that. Or this is one area where I'm not exactly strong, but I think that I can make up for it in these other ways. And it just felt like one of these, like we were getting to know each other, and that it was more like partnership. And I was not going to be coming in like as a low-level employee and having to like be like, oh, thank you so much, boss, for hiring me. But it was really like, we are working on this as a team, and this is how we work together. And it felt completely different. And I really love that about certainly my interview process this time around, but also I do feel like in the Netherlands in general, we have a little bit less of this hierarchy that in the States is still pretty like important. So it just felt good. It felt like we were just having a conversation. We were getting to know each other, and I felt both of those conversations just so happy and so thankful and just full of energy and excited about what I could possibly be doing. So it felt great. But it was a little bit of a mind shift for me. Instead of me just being like, please, please, this is why you should hire me, and this is all the things that I'm good at, and blah, blah, blah. It was kind of like, okay, well, this is who I am and what I have to offer, but what do you have and what are you offering? And do we have a connection here? And do we have a click here? And are we going to be able to work together nicely? And it felt great to find a match in that way. Take a drink every time I say great and happy and amazing, and we'll be drunk by the end of this video. Okay, so the last step of the interview kind of was to prepare this assessment where they sent me kind of like an assignment a little bit, like in this case it was like, we want to have this event on campus. It's this like big important event to the university president, blah, blah, blah. What would your communication strategy be? Now, they said 200 words maximum. I could not deliver that in 200 words because as I sat there over the weekend thinking about if this was my job, what would it really look like? How would I approach this? How would I communicate about this event? What would I do? It was like my brain just like unlocked in terms of creativity. And I thought, we could do this, and we could do this, and we could do this, and this is why I would do this. And if we don't do this, we miss out on this opportunity. And why don't we do this? And this is such a good opportunity to do this and this and this and this for next year. And I just became completely inspired, and like I was like, I'm just gonna make the kind of document that I would actually make and not worry about the 200 words limit. And I ended up delivering a 10-page 10-page communication strategy that I would put together for this kind of big event. And I felt like that was a risk because on the one hand, they could say, we did not ask you for a 10-page document. You cannot follow instructions. What is this? But on the other hand, I really wanted them to see that like I understood the assignment, but also how I would do it and why I would do it. And so I just prepared it and I sent it. And ultimately it worked out in this way because they really liked it, and it was a good thing. But the reason that I share this story with you now is because if you are interviewing for a job and maybe you have to make an assessment or something, if you really connect with it, if you really feel it, if you're really inspired by the thing that you're going to be doing or the thing that you're asked to do, put your best foot forward. Just do it. I enjoyed doing the project. I had fun to make this thing, and ultimately it got me to the job where I'm at. But don't worry and don't hesitate to just do your best and really try if you want. All right, so that is where we stand. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that I answered kind of all the questions that you might have, but if you don't, leave them in the comments and I will get to them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for spending some time with us today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it. Share it if it's helpful for other people. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one.